This is the Asus ROG Phone 8. It's a gaming phone, and I think it might be the Android phone most people should be buying. But let's back up a little bit. The model I've got here is the ROG Phone 8 Pro. So this has got 1 terabyte of storage, 24 gigabytes of RAM. Inside you'll find the most up-to-date Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. On the front, we've got a Samsung 6.78-inch AMOLED display. That's covered in Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2, so it should be nice and hard wearing. Now, one of the most interesting bits on the ROG Phone 8 is that it's got a 5500 milliamp hour battery. Now that's a lot bigger than most other phones on the market, but it's interestingly a little bit smaller than the ROG Phone 7. When I spoke to Asus about this, it was a little bit more power efficient this time out, and they sort of decided that they could fit some more in the chassis without impacting the performance too much. Now, in practice, it makes pretty much no difference. Like, I've kind of got to a point with this now where phone batteries last a day. If a phone battery doesn't last a day, that's a problem. But if it gets through a day, like beyond that, it's kind of much of a muchness. The ROG Phone 7 would get through a day with no trouble. This does pretty much the same. You might find it has 35% instead of 40%, but honestly, at that point, who cares? Let's talk about some of the other gaming-centric features of this model. So on the Pro Edition, it comes with the Aero Active Cooler X, which has been redesigned. They've actually lost the subwoofer from that one, which was a bit of a shame because I did like how that sounded. But it's been improved. They sort of improved the performance instead, and I think that's probably worthwhile. You also, in another difference to the ROG Phone 7, we don't have the flip-up panel on the back. That allowed air to be directed straight into the internals of the phone. But because this is the first IP68 water-rated gaming phone on the market, they had to shut that off, basically. We've got an entirely redesigned cooling system inside as well. Spoiler alert, this thing is really good thermally. Like, you can game for hours and it'll sit there quite happily. We have a pretty cool little, it's called the Anime Vision. That's going to go through your charge level, the ROG logo, the ROG word, and I believe the time. But it's also user configurable. So you need a very specific black and white resolution GIF, but you can put your own GIF on there. I love the idea of trying to get my face on the back of it, but I haven't delved into that side of it yet. One of the most important upgrades that we've got this year is in the camera. Now, when I used the ROG Phone 7 last year, the camera kind of sucked. Like, it was fine, but every camera looked really different and it wasn't a great experience. Now, I get that. In a gaming phone, so much is going on. There's so many other factors to consider. Something's got to give unless you want to pay $2,000 for it. But they have upgraded it this time out, and I've got to say, I've been really impressed. The main sensor is a Sony IMX890. That's a 50 megapixel sensor. It looks great. Then we've got a 13 megapixel ultra wide with a 120-degree field of view. And last but not least, there is a 32 megapixel telephoto with a 3x optical zoom. That's pretty darn good for any phone, really. The results are staggering. The photos on this phone are just divine. Really lovely color profile, great across the zoom range. The optical zoom on any sensor really is quite a nice thing to have, but it just looks really great. And for me, that is kind of why this deserves praise. Gaming phones are a really strange little niche in that they are incredibly high performance devices. And yet no one really talks about them all that much. In a world where we're sat here debating the OnePlus 12 and the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, I can't believe that we're not looking at something like this. You've got a massive battery in there for all-day battery life. For the first time, I think, they've actually nailed the design for a regular person. It's not like the RGB covered gamified, you know. It's not that look. That's not what we've gone for here. It's designed to look ordinary. And yet, when you get inside and use it, the performance is extraordinary. If you want to just use a regular phone on a day-to-day basis, this is going to be one of the most powerful ones you can get. If you want to game on it as well, you're laughing. But ultimately, I think that if you're looking at something like a Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, so you're already willing to spend that little bit more, it's worth taking a look at something like this, because I think you might be pleasantly surprised by what you find.